Very scary, true, rainy night horror stories. The rain came down in sheets that October night, turning Highway 49 into a black mirror that reflected nothing but darkness. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles white as she navigated the winding mountain road. She'd been driving for 3 hours, desperate to reach her sister's house in Asheville before midnight. Should have left earlier, she muttered, watching the gas gauge dip dangerously close to empty. The radio crackle was static, fragments of a weather warning breaking through. Severe flooding, travelers advised to seek shelter, roads impassable. Sarah leaned forward, squinting through the downpour. Her headlights barely penetrated the curtain of rain. That's when she saw it. A faint glow in the distance, off to the right. A gas station, maybe, or a house. Anywhere to wait out this storm. She took the exit, her tires hydroplaning slightly as she turned onto a narrow gravel road. The trees here grew thick and close, their branches forming a tunnel that swallowed what little light her headlights provided. The glow grew brighter, and Sarah's heart lifted with relief. But as she rounded the final bend, her relief turned to unease. It wasn't a gas station. It was a motel, a decrepit, single-story structure that looked like it hadn't seen guests in decades. The neon sign above the office flickered erratically. V_NCY. Half the letters were dead. The building itself seemed to sag under the weight of the rain, its white paint peeling in long, diseased strips. Sarah's instinct screamed at her to keep driving, but the fuel light had been on for the last 10 miles. She was running on fumes. Just for the night, she told herself. Just until the storm passes. She parked under the overhang and ran to the office door, rain soaking through her jacket in seconds. The door swung open before she could knock, revealing a small, cramped room thick with the smell of mildew and cigarette smoke. Behind the desk sat an old man, his face deeply lined and his eyes rheumy. He looked up at her without surprise, as if he'd been expecting her. "Need a room?" His voice was like gravel scraping against rust. "Yes, please. Just for tonight." He pushed a ledger across the desk. Sarah noticed the pages were yellowed and brittle, covered in names written in faded ink. She signed her name. The handwriting looked stark and modern against the aged paper, and accepted the key he offered. "Room 7. Breakfast at 7, he said. "Don't go wandering after dark." Sarah wanted to ask what he meant, but he'd already turned away, disappearing through a curtained doorway behind the desk. Room 7 was at the far end of the building. Sarah hurried through the rain, counted the doors, 4, 5, 6, and stopped. There was no room 7. The building ended at room 6. She stood there, rain streaming down her face, staring at the blank wall. Then she looked down at the key in her hand. The number 7 was clearly stamped into the tarnished brass. A chill that had nothing to do with the rain crawled up her spine. Behind her, she heard a door creak open. Sarah spun around. Room X's door stood ajar, darkness pooling beyond the threshold. She took a step toward it, then stopped. The darkness inside wasn't natural. It was thick, viscous, like it was alive. "Hello." Her voice sounded small and fragile. No response, just the relentless drumming of rain on the roof. Sarah backed away and ran to the office. The old man wasn't there. She rang the bell on the desk, the sharp sound echoing in the empty room. No one came. Her phone had no signal. She'd noticed that earlier, but now when she looked at the screen, the time displayed made her stomach drop. 11:11 p.m. It had been 11:11 when she'd checked 5 minutes ago. The clock wasn't moving. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "Okay, this is fine. I'll just wait in the car." She turned to leave and froze. Standing in the doorway was a woman in a white nightgown, her long dark hair plastered to her face by the rain. Water streamed from her clothes, pooling on the worn linoleum. But that wasn't what made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. The woman was translucent. Sarah could see the parking lot through her body, could see the rain falling through her. "Help me," the woman whispered. Her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Please help me. Room 7. I'm still in room 7. Sarah's legs wouldn't move. She stood frozen as the woman drifted closer, leaving no wet footprints despite the water that poured from her. "I can't find my way out," the woman continued. Her eyes were black holes, fixed on Sarah. "I've been looking for so long. He keeps me there. He keeps all of us there." "Who?" Sarah managed to choke out. "Who keeps you there?" The woman opened her mouth to answer, but instead of words, water poured out, gallons of it, gushing from her mouth and nose, flooding across the floor. Sarah screamed and stumbled backward, crashing into the desk. When she looked up, the woman was gone. The floor was dry. Sarah ran. She burst out of the office and sprinted to her car, her hands shaking so badly she could barely get the key in the ignition. The engine turned over once, twice, and died. The fuel gauge sat stubbornly on empty. No, no, no. She tried again. Nothing. Through the rain-streaked windshield, she saw lights flickering on in the motel rooms. One by one, they illuminated, revealing silhouettes standing in the windows. Figures that didn't move, didn't gesture, just stood there watching her. Room SAXS door swung fully open. More figures emerged, walking with stilted, unnatural movements. They were all soaking wet, water streaming from their clothes and hair, their faces pale and bloated. Sarah's breath came in short gasps. She locked the doors with trembling hands, knowing it wouldn't matter, knowing that locks meant nothing to things that weren't alive. The figures surrounded her car. They pressed their faces against the windows, leaving no condensation, no smudges. Their eyes were empty, mouths moving soundlessly. Sarah could read their lips. "Help us. Room 7. He keeps us in room 7. A tapping on the driver's side window made her scream. The old man from the office stood there, but now she could see that his eyes were completely black, like the woman's, like all of them. "You signed the ledger," he said, his voice muffled by the glass, but perfectly clear. "You agreed to stay. Room 7 is ready for you now." "There is no room 7. Sarah shouted. He smiled, revealing teeth that were too long, too sharp. "There's always been a room 7. You just couldn't see it before. But now you've signed in. Now you can see everything." Sarah looked toward the end of the building. Room 7's door stood open now, visible where there had been only wall before. Inside, she could see other people, dozens of them, all soaking wet, all with those terrible black eyes, all staring at her with desperate, pleading expressions. "No." Sarah shook her head. "I'm leaving. I don't care about the gas. I'm leaving." She turned the key again. This time, impossibly, the engine roared to life. The old man's smile vanished. The figures around her car began pounding on the windows, their silent mouths forming screams. Sarah threw the car into reverse and slammed her foot on the accelerator. The car lurched backward, tires spinning in the gravel. The figures didn't move away. She felt a sickening thud as she drove through them, though they left no marks, no blood, nothing to indicate they'd ever been solid. She spun the wheel and rocketed toward the main road, not daring to look in the rear-view mirror. The motel's neon sign flickered wildly behind her, and in that strobing light, she saw them all standing in a line, watching her go. The gravel road seemed to stretch on forever, longer than it had been when she'd driven in. The trees pressed closer, branches scraping against the car's roof with sounds like fingernails on a coffin lid. Sarah kept the accelerator floored, tears streaming down her face, praying she'd find the highway again. Then, suddenly, she was back on Highway 49. The rain had stopped. The sky was clear, stars visible overhead. Sarah pulled over onto the shoulder, killed the engine, and sobbed. She checked her phone. 3:47 a.m. 4.5 hours had passed. The next morning, after sleeping fitfully in her car, Sarah drove to the nearest town and asked about the motel. The gas station attendant looked at her strangely. Motel? There's no motel on that road, miss. Hasn't been for 30 years. Burned down in 94. Some kind of accident. Owner locked all the guests in their rooms during a flood. They all drowned. They say he went crazy, started believing he could keep them there forever if he just didn't let them leave. Sarah's blood ran cold. Room 7? The attendant's eyes widened. How'd you know about that? Yeah, the owner kept the bodies in a hidden room. Room 7. Police found them all there, sitting in chairs weeks after the flood. He'd kept them like they were still his guests. Sarah left without another word. She drove straight to her sister's house and didn't speak about that night for months. But sometimes, on rainy nights, she wakes up at exactly 11:11 p.m., and in those moments, just before she fully wakes, she hears it, the sound of water dripping and a woman's voice whispering, "Thank you for not staying. Thank you for not signing in forever." Sarah never drives Highway 49 again, and she never, ever stops at motels when it rains. Some invitations, once accepted, are impossible to refuse. Sarah had managed to escape, but she knows the truth. Somewhere, in a place between reality and nightmare, there's still a ledger with her name in it, and the old man is still waiting, patient as death, for the night she might return. The motel doesn't appear on any map, but on rainy nights, if you're desperate enough, running on empty with nowhere else to go, you might see a flickering neon sign in the distance. If you do, keep driving. Some vacancies should stay unfilled.